Drop the crates at the dock. Don't ask questions. It's not that hard. What's up, YouTube? It's Big Ryan, the Fat Guy. You are watching the NFL Week 1 Picks Against the Spread video for the 2019 season. Remember, you can compete every week at BigRyanTheFatGuy.com. The winners will be featured in every video, and this year, brand new, what everybody was asking for, we've got a leaderboard at BigRyanTheFatGuy.com, so make sure you check it out. In 2017, we went 66, 51, and 5, good for 56.4%, which is...
It's decent. Let's put it decently. If you've read a gambling book or two, that's well above expectation. That's above most. That's in the upper echelon. That's a winning year.
Fat Guy, what do you expect for 2019?
Well, in 2018, we did 51.2, which is about break even when you include the books Vigorish or commission or hold, any which way you like to slice it. But don't forget, Fat Guy is selecting every game, and it's very difficult to select every game, especially when lines don't always move in your favor. However, this year is a new year. It's a dawn of a new era. So I'm going to be using a little bit more of technology in our favor. We'll be unfurling that on you this entire season. I'll be using my gut. I'll be using a product that Big Ryan and I came up with, as well as sticking to the standard contrarian theory going forward.
On to our NFL Week 1 picks against the spread. Let's start off with the Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears on Thursday night. Green Bay's 3.5-point underdogs with 58% of the bettors. Chicago 3.5-point favorites with 42% of the bettors. Fat Guy, who you got?
I'm going to take the Chicago Bears and lay in the 3.5 points. Now, this is a nice game by the NFL to kick off the year with. Usually they pick the Super Bowl winner and some sort of rival, but that's not what they went with this. They went with a thriller from last year between the Bears and the Packers. I like the Bears in this game. It's by a slight edge, I got to be honest, guys. The Bears, when we went over their roster, had really strong offensive line, and I think they were just well built all around. I haven't hid my feelings about Mitchell Trubisky. I don't think he's that great, but I think there's enough contingent plans in place to make the Bears a strong enough team to win this matchup. A-Rod in a new system, I think it's not going to matter. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I do believe he's the best player in the league. They have some on defense. It's been bolstered a lot, especially with their first-round pick, Darnell Savage, in addition to Rashawn Gary at linebacker and wherever they choose to suit him up. However, they added like Zadarius Smith from Baltimore, and they paid him a whole lot of money. Great player, but he didn't exactly churn out the type of production you'd need for the money that they're going to be paying him. So it's a young defense in Green Bay that is trending upwards, but that type of optimism doesn't necessarily sit well with me. I like the defensive line of the Bears. I like the offensive line of the Bears. I like the defense of the Bears. I like the Bears.
Next up, Week 1, we'll start on the Sunday games, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The Atlanta Falcons travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Atlanta's 3.5-point underdogs on the road with 64% of the bettors. Fat Guy, who you got?
Ooh, this is a tough one. I'm gonna take the Falcons here, and this is gonna go against. It's gonna go against the pub, or going with the public rather. I'm going to take the Falcons here. And oddly enough, when the early lines came out, I kind of like the Vikings at -4.5. But what's made me waver is I feel like Atlanta's a complete team kind of trending in the right direction. Now, a lot of you guys bit our head off for not crowning Atlanta Super Bowl champions before this inaugural season started last year. And I'm glad you didn't. Look around. You were wrong. We were right. Falcons were good, but they weren't that good. They were really, really mired with injury. Another interesting thing of note about Atlanta and their offense is Matt Ryan is the favorite to have the most passing yards in the NFL with Mahomes in second. Now that's just it's a little interesting thing because I feel like odds makers kind of know what they're doing. And that's just a nice projection for the strength of this offense. You're also getting middle linebacker Deion Jones back. And, everyone in this defense is just a little bit older, a little bit wiser. I like both teams. I like the Vikings. They're a nice team. This is a tough matchup. 3.5 points crosses that nice half-point threshold where you can lose by a field goal. So Vikings by 3 seems like a reasonable count. So you Vikes fans can get your win, and I can get my cover with the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons plus 3.5.
Next up, the Washington Redskins travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Redskins are 9.5-point underdogs on the road with 41% of the bettors. Fat Guy, who you got?
Everyone knows me. And if you don't, This is a classic fat guy game. This isn't a gold pick or anything for me, but in this type of scenario, it's pretty easy. I'm taking the 9.5 points. I'm taking the Washington Redskins. Now, do I think the Eagles are better than the Redskins in every category? Pretty much. I think the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender. I think they're a really strong team going forward. I like the Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan. Now, the Redskins, I've always been a little bit of a homer for as well, but they have so much turmoil, but that's almost good because that's built into the line. The reason the spread is so large is because of the dysfunction. I mean, Trent Williams is not going to be back. They're a bit abysmal at tackle. Their run game is going to be interesting because we're going to get a good look at Darius Geist. Their position, their skill players, their wide receivers are dreadful. They don't really have a quarterback. They're going to start Case Keenum, who's had, I guess we could say, up and down results. He was awful in Denver, but he had a great, halfway through the year, he was an MVP candidate for Minnesota Vikings that did pretty decently until they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, with whom they're playing. Case Keenum is playing this weekend. I do like the spread, and I think Washington's defense is good enough to keep it in line. I'm going to take the Redskins because 9.5 is a large number to cover. Give me the Redskins. Give me the points.
Next up, the Buffalo Bills travel to New York to take on the Jets. The Bills are 3-point underdogs on the road. Only 39% of bettors on the Bills. Fat guy, who you got?
This is another bizarre notion for the fat guy. 39% usually leaves me salivating and let me betting on the Bills. But I'm going to meet the Jets, and I'm going to greet the Jets. I'm going to take the New York Jets -3. I find the Jets to be one of the most underrated football teams in the league right now. And, you're going to say, oh, the Jets always lose. There's always dysfunction. That's the whole point. And do you guys... Now, Cleveland, another team I've always liked, not this iteration, but in past, they have way too much hype around them. The Jets don't. I find the Jets to be pretty decent. They added Kalishi Osemele, formerly of the Ravens and of the Raiders. I'm wearing silver and black today. Sorry about that, everyone. They added him to the offensive line. They added Matt Khalil out of retirement. They've kind of bolstered. They've added weapons for Sam Darnold. Of course, Le'Veon Bell in a new era. And also Adam Gase. I found Adam Gase to be, although his time was tumultuous, you could say, in Miami, he did go 10-6 in his first year with a really weak roster and made the playoffs. Just getting annihilated with backup Matt Moore to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that's last year. That's many years ago. This is this year. I like the Jets. I am optimistic about the Jets. I think they're a decent football team top to bottom with not that many holes. Let's look for a sophomore leap from Sam Darnold, and let's take the Jets. Although I am really interested, I got to say, I want to see Buffalo and I want to see Ed Oliver perform. I want to see how Buffalo's defense does. But I'm going to take the Jets. I'm going to lay the points, and I think this is a good one.
Next up, the Baltimore Ravens travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins. The Dolphins are 6.5-point underdogs at home. Only 16% of bettors are on the Dolphins. Fat guy, you know what that means, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who you got?
Oh, we love Miami. This is a big one for us. Now, Fat guy usually has a rule about not betting too much on, really bad teams, and I think we can all agree here. I'm sorry, Travis from Florida. Miami, I think they're the worst team in the league. Do I think they can cover this spread? Absolutely. And now when you see that 6.5 spread, that came up from 4.5 amid all the news and amid all the betting public that's been hammering the Baltimore Ravens. When there's dysfunction and when it's built in the line, I'll take the dysfunction. I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins. Now I'm going to make a little quick handicapping note here. I wouldn't be surprised if this line moves to 7 and even 7.5 or 7 with some positive juice in your way. So for you savvy line shoppers, I think you can wait on this one a little bit. Maybe do it on the Saturday before the punters, the professional punters, jump on Miami all over in the morning. I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins, and also to the it's a low over-under, so that gives me confidence they're going to be able to keep it in line. Now, Miami has lost Laramie Tunsil, and they don't have much of a replacement behind him. They traded for Julian Davenport from the Houston Texans, so they're kind of mix-mashing of tackles. One that's super talented, and the incumbent, Julian Davenport, not so much. So that's going to be a glaring hole for the Miami Dolphins. But the Ravens have certainly lost a lot of depth at the linebacker position, so they're going to be difficult to, set the edge and rush the passer. And by the way, Ryan Fitzpatrick is capable of great games. So why can't we see one this Sunday? So I wouldn't even be surprised if Miami upsets this game. I don't think the Dolphins are a good team, but this is a week-to-week league. This is a week-to-week betting schedule. Give me the Miami Dolphins. Give me the points. I wish it was 7.
We're going to follow this up with another game I know we're excited about, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. The Jaguars are 3.5-point underdogs at home. Only 23% of bettors are on the Jags. Fat guy, who you got?
Oh, easy one. And this one's decent. I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, all right. I say the Jags name wrong every year. I don't know how to correct myself. Just let me orate with this freedom of expression that I have. Hit me up in the comments. You don't know how to enunciate Jaguars, and I don't. So the Jags, they're at home to the Kansas City Chiefs. And no doubt about it, I think the Chiefs are of the best teams in the league. Maybe the best. They're a good organization top to bottom. And I feel like they've added a lot of talent on defense. They're going to be a good team. However, I think the Jags are due for a rebound. They went to the AFC Championship just 2 years ago. It's the Patriots. In a game I really felt they should have hung on and won. But that's most teams playing in Foxborough against the Patriots that are any good. I like the Jaguars to rebound. I think they're kind of... I was a little overzealous on them last year, and they definitely failed in certain areas. I didn't like the mental toughness necessarily and physical toughness of Leonard Fournette and, a little hamstring energy. But that's just my apprehensions about drafting him last year in fantasy. I like the Jaguars, and I think their defense is going to be able to respond nicely to the Kansas City Chiefs. Hill is an interesting option because he is faster than anyone, especially on this defense. The Jags don't have Telvin Smith, who I felt was the best linebacker in the league, but they did have Myles Jack, and he is certainly good, but it'd be nice to have Smith right next to him. They're a little light at safety, but they added Josh Allen out of, I believe, Kentucky in the first round of this draft. This defense is going to be able to get after the quarterback, and I don't care what offensive line they're up against. I think they're the favorite between the offensive line, defensive line battle. I like the Jags. I want to see a strong performance from Nick Foles, and I want to see a power run, play action type of control the clock game from the Jags, and see if they can stymie this creative Andy Reid team that just got some of the most talented players, especially MVP Patrick Mahomes, as well as creative plays. Every year they pull out a creative play, like that pitch they used to do to tight ends, Kelce in particular, who I think will have a big year this year. I think the Chiefs are going to do really well this year, but I kind of feel like this is a Chiefs win by 3 type game, and I feel like the numbers represent that too. I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jags. I'm going to take the 3.5 points.
Another game we're going to be excited about. Pretty much every game we're going to be excited about.
Yeah,
coming
it's
into
the first
week 1.
Cut us a break.
But the Tennessee Titans travel to Cleveland to take on our Cleveland Browns. Tennessee is 5.5-point underdogs on the road, but only 30% of bettors are on Tennessee. Fat guy, who you got?
Well, you said our Cleveland Browns. Now, generally I'm rocking Cleveland gear, but the old Joe Thomas jersey went in the wash, and I got a rash from the Jim Brown jersey because probably it's the same rash that Big Rye has. That's really weird. Anyways, I'm going to be taking the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to go against the Cleveland Faithful. Now, like I said, this isn't my favorite iteration of the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to double down on that. I don't like that they've kind of invested so much in skill positions. It's like $30+ million between Beckham and Jarvis Landry. I don't really like how that's how you build a football team, but I am going to give Dorsey credit. He's striking while the iron's hot. He knows he has a pretty good quarterback prospect under rookie contract. You might as well just go for it. Unfortunately, they're going to do it through that, and their offensive line is in serious disarray. I think the Browns are, dare I say, the Browns are overrated. When has this ever happened? There's more hype around the Browns than anyone. I read an article too, 161% upgrade in Browns usage in Madden. That just tells me they're a public team. That's actually true.
Wow.
So that just tells me they're a public team. So as a gambler, I'm just going to say my loyalties don't run too deep when it comes to selecting games. I think this is a home run game for the Titans. I will say this, though, an underrated thing about the Browns is their defense on paper is just formidable. That would be the best way of putting it. Their defensive line is stacked, the starting defensive line, between Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, and your boy Myles Garrett, first overall pick. Tennessee's defense and roster is pretty strong all around, although it really hurts not having Taylor Lewin in this game, and he's going to be replaced by Dennis Kelly, formerly of the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles, and he's really not nearly as good, let's say, and he's going to have his hands full with a combination of Garrett and Olivier Vernon. But all of those names aside, I like the Titans. I want to see a performance from Henry. I want to see power running. I want to see Tennessee start this year the way they kind of finished last year, aside from that Indy game. Give me the Titans and give me the 5.5 points.
Next up, the LA Rams travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Rams are 3-point favorites on the road, 76%, whereas Carolina at home, +3, only 24% of bettors. Fat guy, you know what that means. Who you got?
Well, Big Rod, the saying goes, if it looks too good to be true,
it's too good to be true.
Well, it probably is. Thanks for not knowing any idioms whatsoever. I guess that's why I'm doing all the talking. So I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers, and this is a really obvious one. This is one of the bigger bets for us, to be honest. We were talking with one of our listeners earlier in some of our streams, and he was big on the Panthers as well as a contrarian play. And why is this? Do I really think the Panthers are better than the Rams? No, I don't. I think we have Rams as the best team in the league.
We do.
Yeah, and that's completely reasonable. Why? Their defense is awesome. Their offense is awesome. But I am going to reiterate, this is a week-to-week league. If you pick like the herd, you're going to end up like the herd. Give me the Carolina Panthers. Give me the 3 points. I wouldn't even be surprised if they upset and win this game. There are ways around it for the Panthers. Panthers could play power run, and they could maybe take a page from both the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl as well as the Bears of last year and kind of stymie the play action type passes, West Coast style of the LA Rams. I don't exactly know how I'm going to speak of them in a short form, but the Rams offense, not only is it electric, but I think it's stoppable, and it has been shown to do so. And I think the Carolina Panthers are able to do so. You know what's nice about the Panthers? For once, they kind of have a corner tandem that's a little bit better. It used to be their Achilles heel, but with, Olympic style athlete Dante Jackson, Action Jackson, as well as Bradbury. It's kind of decent here. Eric Reed has played pretty decent at safety. Not great, and then you have all-world Luke Kuechly. This is a defense that's reasonable and capable at home. Don't forget, at home. And this is a big time change game, even though it's the first week, and you can kind of throw it out the window. I still think home field matters for something. We're going to see how Carolina does without big-time kicker Graham Gano. But I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. Another thing to look out for that I'm interested is, the Todd Gurley usage for you fantasy users. I'm not that sure, but I kind of don't believe the hype, and I think he's going to play a lot because it's the injury thing is a really, really strange coincidence. And the thing about, why didn't they bring back C.J. Anderson? Is Henderson, the running back they bring in, really going to be playing that much? It's hard to say. I think they're just going to ghost ride the whip with Todd Gurley. And it's nice to see Cooper Kupp back. Even though there was a small drop-off between him and Josh Reynolds, I think that drop-off kind of amounted for something. Cooper Kupp was a nice red zone threat. Even more so in the touchdown per game type category between him, Woods, and Cooks. He seemed to be a guy targeted more. And of course, maybe Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. So we're going through all of that. And maybe Andrew Whitworth, the left tackle, maybe he's slowed down just a bit from his all-star status. I think the Rams are the best team in the league, but I don't like them this week. Give me the Panthers and give me the points.
Next up, we're moving to the 4:05 games. On Sunday, the Cincinnati Bengals travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. The Bengals are 10-point underdogs. Bets are pretty split, 53% on Cincinnati, 47% on the Seahawks. Fat guy, who you got?
This is pretty obvious here. It's a double-digit dog. I don't love this game, to be honest. I really don't. But we're going to go with the Bengals. It's 10 points, And that's it. I reiterate this stuff all the time. I feel like I'm saying reiteration a lot, or reiterate. But the reason I like double-digit dogs is because Seattle doesn't care if they win by 3, 7, or 30, or 12. It doesn't matter. They want to win. Do I think Seattle's going to win this game? Yes. Do I think the Bengals are going to win this game? No. However, 10 points is just a large spread. That's what it comes down to. And Seattle, don't forget too, Seattle has a lot of hype going with it, especially amidst this pretty sweet deal they got in Clowney, Jadeveon Clowney from the Houston Texans, pending on, of course, what they're going to have to pay him. But that's a nice addition to their defense. That's a little bit young, a little bit short in the tooth, as they say. Let's go backwards on that one. And Cincinnati has the marks of a dysfunction. Young coach, cheap owner, transition period. But I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think 10 points is too big a number to cover. And of course, they're going to be without AJ Green, maybe their best player in the entire team from a strength of positional standpoint. but I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to take the 10 points.
Next up, the Indianapolis Colts travel to LA to take on the Chargers. Indianapolis is 6.5-point underdogs, and only 29% of bettors are on the Colts. Fat guy, who you got?
Oh, we know where we're going with this one, boys. The line moved 3 points, by the way, ladies and gents, or maybe 3.5. Yeah, I think it's 3 or 3.5.
I want to say it was 3.5, so it moved 3 points.
Yeah, from the Chargers being a field goal favorite to 6.5-point favorites. I guess that tells you what the value of Andrew Luck is. But also, too, the public kind of reinforced it. So Luck might not be worth 3.5 points, but it shifted that direction because the public money thinks that Indianapolis is hopeless without him. And I don't. And neither does Big Rye. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, I've mentioned, is of the best backups in the league, probably behind Teddy Bridgewater. But I feel like he's a top 25 quarterback. And he's going to get another shot. He's done reasonably well with them. And this is an improved Indianapolis Colts. This is good news for Marlon Mack owners, by the way, because they're going to be throwing a little bit less and pounding the rock all the much more. They have of the best offensive lines in the National Football League, and it's going to be interesting to see how their offense adapts to the change in personnel at the quarterback position. And so, like I said, there's with bad news, with dysfunction, that's already built in the line. I like the Indianapolis Colts, not quite as much as I like the Jets and the Dolphins, but I do like them. Also, too, this is another one where you might be able to wait until the line moves to possibly 7 points. So you don't necessarily have to buy at 6.5, but you could buy it close to 7. I think the punters are going to be, the professional punters that is, are going to be all over the Colts early in the morning on Sunday. I like the Colts, and I like the points. I do want to point out one thing about the Chargers that's very interesting to me. Is Russell Okung has a blood clot injury, much like David Andrews of the New England Patriots at center, and he is at this standpoint at this Monday the 9th or Monday the 2nd. I'm not very good at reading calendars. Clearly, he is not playing in Week 1. He's not with the team, so it's not that the Melvin Gordon thing worries me. It's that their bookends is now it's Sam Tevi is going to be replacing Russell Okung. They're just incredibly weak. So there's an interesting matchup to watch out for. Is the Indianapolis Colts were able to sign, all-world talent at one point, Justin Houston from the Kansas City Chiefs. I know he's long in the tooth, but he got a whole pile of money, and he has crossed the 20-sack mark before in his career. I'd like to see him and Sam Tevi tee off, and I'm going to give the advantage to Justin Houston. Justin Houston's a monster. I like the Indianapolis Colts. I don't necessarily think they're going to win, but a 6.5-point spread is just really difficult to cover, I think. And hopefully you can get 7. Give me the Colts that are underrated and give me the points.
Yeah, the Chargers are going to be starting Trent Scott and Sam Tevi at left tackle and right tackle. So that's a nice matchup for the Colts.
Very
going
nice.
Into Week 1.
Big weakness.
And another interesting tidbit that we can throw in is today, Jacoby Brissett got a 2-year extension worth $50 million a year. So that puts
15.
him 15. Puts him a little bit higher on that, kind of puts him in that range of being like an average to below average starter as far as how he's getting paid. And that's probably how we view him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget, this team is very talented, and they struck gold in that graph. I know we're going long in this game, and this isn't even one of my favorites, but these are just big points of interest. Everyone wants to know what our thoughts are on the Andrew Luck. Good for you. Enjoy your thing. You ruined my fantasy along with Lamar Miller, but that's okay. I think the Colts aren't they aren't a dumpster fire. They have strong management. I like the Colts going forward. I like the Colts in this game. Colts plus 6.5.
Next up, the San Francisco 49ers travel to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. San Francisco is 1-point underdogs on the road with 61% of the betting public. Fat guy, who you got?
This is the hardest one. There's the margin on this game for us is about as thin as you can possibly get. About as thin as my friend Eric's hairline, actually. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they're at home and more people are betting on the San Francisco 49ers. It's really just for that reason. I can think of, you can justify anything you want whenever you're making an argument, whether it's for one side or another. And if you're going to make me do that justification, as I should be, because we're on YouTube and that's what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm going to say that I feel that Bruce Arians is more prepared of a coach than Kyle Shanahan, dare I say it. I find Shanahan to be one of the best coordinators in the league, but I haven't seen it translate necessarily to the NFL head coaching caliber era. I don't think any of that made sense, but I prefer Bruce Arians in this matchup in the preparations. So I think the Bucs are a weak team. I really do believe that. But I'm going to take the Bucs, and I'm going to, lay the point. Bucs are going to win this. That's what I think. Barely.
Next up, the Detroit Lions travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. The Lions are 2.5-point favorites on the road. 78% of bettors, surprisingly, are on the Lions. Fat guy, who you got?
Ooh. When I was speaking of bigger ones, this is one of the bigger ones for me. I like the Cardinals. Are the Cardinals good? No, I know that. Do I think Kyler Murray is going to be the best quarterback ever? No, I don't. I'm happy for them, I think the best player on the team is clearly Chandler Jones. This defense is also really hurt too. Patrick Peterson's suspended, and this other corner, Robert Alford, is on IR. That should spell good news for Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay, and perhaps Danny Amendola. So, it looks like the Lions are in good shape, but the Lions shouldn't be laying 2.5 points on the road ever. If you can bet the money line, take the Cardinals with the money line, because laying 2.5 points rarely does you well. So I like the Cardinals, especially if the line moves to 3, although I don't think it will. I love the Cardinals this week. I think it's a really good time to pick them up. How often are they going to be? How often are they going to be in this type of scenario against a game where they can really win it? Because I think they're going to be in for a rough year. This is a good one for the Cards. It's a good one for a home. And let's bring a win for the fan base. So I'm going to take Cardinals. I'm going to take the points.
I'm going to double down with what the fat guy said there about Arizona taking the money line because they're 2.5 points. Even the money line, only 36% of bettors are taking the Cardinals. So that is a very good bet, something that we will be putting some money down on Sunday. Next up, the New York Giants travel to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Giants are 7-point underdogs. Cowboys are 7-point favorites. It's pretty much split 50-50. Fat guy, who you got?
I like the Dallas Cowboys. And now 7 points, that's just a fat guy key number. He loves it. And usually I would take the Giants, but I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are underrated, and I think this Ezekiel Elliott thing isn't really as damning as it once was thought to be. Elliott's a great talent, perhaps even generational, but Tony Pollard's going to carry the rock behind a strong offensive line and a pretty good defense. I like the defense in Dallas, and I've said this before when I had this argument with one of my good friends who's not necessarily a Dak Prescott fan. I said, throw out the numbers, he's a winner, and that's what I actually believe. Much like Alex Smith, boring quarterback, very boring. Alex Smith is a winner. Look it up, guys, and he covers a lot. He did when his leg was in one piece. But that's how I feel about Dak Prescott and these Cowboys. And I just like how they've been. I like how they've drafted. I like how they are. I kind of like the Cowboys going forward this year. I think they're a strong team. So I'm going to take Dallas, and I'm going to lay the 7 points. And also, too, not that Jason Garrett's a stalwart behind the headset, but I think he's a bit better than Pat Shurmur. Shurmur's a good offensive coordinator, much like Shanahan. But being a Cleveland fan at some point, I know I'm wearing silver and black. You can point it in the comment section. But being a Cleveland fan, those Shurmur years weren't exactly good. Well, Shurmur year. And I don't think it's going to be good for him in New York. I don't think he'll make it through I think he'll make it till the end of the year, and then he'll be axed. I like the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to lay the 7 points.
Next up, we move on to Sunday Night Football, where the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to New England to take on the Patriots. Pittsburgh's 6-point underdogs. Only 40% of bettors are on the Steelers. Fat guy, who you got?
Easy one for me again, and I hate doing this, but it's just, what choice do I have? The public loves the Patriots, and why not? They win all the time. But do they cover all the time? No, they don't. No one does. You just got to be right on the right side of the coin on the right day. And on this day, we are taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to take the 6 points. I think the Steelers are actually criminally underrated. I think they have a really strong defense. There are holes, but I do think their defense is good. They're always a prepared franchise. And you know what's kind of nice about the Steelers this year and being underrated is that the Browns somehow are stealing all the spotlight. And the Steelers, they lost Antonio Brown. I get it. And they lost Le'Veon Bell. I get it. Probably the two best players at their positions. Of course, you can make some arguments and you can nitpick, but those are two really strong players. However, James Conner isn't exactly bad, and James Conner has put up similar production as Le'Veon Bell. And Juju Smith-Schuster, fantastic year. Great receiver. better attitude too. I think we can all agree on that one. I just think that the strength of the Steelers is this defense coming in, and that addition in the first round of Devin Bush is really he's gonna play that Shazier role. I think the Steelers are gonna turn into form, and I have them as favorites to win the division. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this should be a good game. And I don't think they're gonna win necessarily. I don't. I think the Patriots are gonna win, but I think the Patriots are gonna win within that 6-point threshold. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers and give me the points.
Next up, we have the doubleheader on Monday night. Starting us off is the Houston Texans traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Houston Texans are 7-point underdogs on the road. 51% of bettors are on the Texans. Fat guy, who you got?
And this one's for Dylan Toddfield, little shout out. And all those guys who think I hate the Saints, or the Aints as you call them. They didn't win last year, by the way, just to remind you. Ooh, that one hurts. I'm going to take New Orleans Saints, and I'm going to lay it to 7 points. I think the Saints are a better football club, just plain and simple. And the math also backs that. This is a 50-50 as far as a public split goes. And I think Houston's got a little bit of positive news when they added Laramie Tunsil. They also did deal Jadeveon Clowney. I think this Houston team isn't as strong as people think it is. Of course they have stars. Of course they have good players. They have maybe the best receiver, even though I had crowned Antonio Brown just 5 seconds earlier. But as a gambler, your memory has to be really short. And DeAndre Hopkins absolutely fits the mold of a top-tier receiver. But then, so do the Saints have Michael Thomas. But why am I talking about receivers? I don't think they're as important as the front lines. And the Saints are loaded on the front lines. I like the Saints' offensive line. I like Drew Brees. I like the Saints. I just think they're better in this spot. And when we talk about dysfunction, it's about reported dysfunction. I feel like Texans it's a little bit of a different feel for them. I feel like it's a little bit difficult for them to be really good. They lost a GM, and then their coach is splitting time between those responsibilities, and I think it's going to show a little bit on the field. I like the New Orleans Saints, and I don't mind laying 7. And this is a weird week for me. I'm laying 7 with Dallas. I'm laying 7s at New Orleans, but at least they're at home and with strong home field advantages.
And the final game on Monday night is the Denver Broncos traveling to Oakland to take on the Raiders. Right now the game is split even, and 57% of bettors are on the Broncos. Fat guy, who you got?
I actually like one team a lot here, and that's why I wore it today. Silver and black. We're going with the Raiders. Now, I'm going to acquiesce here. The Raiders' defense, not so good. They really aren't. Went through it all. I can't find too many awesome things to say about it. Denver's defense, on the other hand, I think is going to be excellent. They're going to be formidable. They are going to be tough to beat. But like I said, I'm going to reiterate. I'm going to use that word again. I'm going to be putting that in the lexicon. I'm going to broaden everyone's day. I'm going to take the Oakland Raiders. I think they're going to be able to find a way to put points up on the Denver Broncos. I think they have some interesting matchups too. We'll see how Brown's covered. We'll see how Brown's used. It's really interesting to see. And Josh Jacobs too, their running back. I like the Raiders' offensive line though. And to quote Von Miller, the toughest offensive line to play every year seems to be the Raiders. Of course, he faces them twice, so he's going to have his hands full with a pretty formidable group. Gruden was disappointing for me last year, I got to be honest. I thought he'd have a little bit more to bring to the table. I'm not sure I'm going to see it necessarily this year, but we're forgetting another thing. The Denver's offense is probably going to be a dumpster fire. It really is. I don't have confidence in Joe Flacco at quarterback. I think Philip Lindsay, he definitely exceeded expectations last year, and good for him. He was a UDFA. Between him and Royce Freeman, I don't think they're comparable to Coleman and Devonta Freeman, as they say. I don't think they're as strong. I don't think their offensive line is that good. Receivers, like I said, they don't matter as much, but I still don't think they're strong. Their whole offense, I'm not a fan of. And also, when I saw Noah Fant in the preseason, I didn't see too much that I found to write home about. I thought he was way less of a prospect than, let's say, Irv Smith, the second-round pick in Minnesota. So I can't draw too many positives as far as Denver's offense goes, and the numbers support that. The numbers like the Oakland Raiders, despite their weaknesses in a variety of areas. Neither of these two teams are strong, and neither of these two teams should contend for the division. But stranger things have happened in football, and stranger things have happened on Monday night. Give me the Raiders to win, baby. Just win.
All right, guys, on to the lightning round. We'll start off on Thursday night, where Green Bay travels to Chicago to take on the Bears.
The Bears.
Atlanta at Minnesota.
Atlanta Falcons.
Washington at Philly.
I think the Redskins will get skinned, but I'll still take the Redskins.
Buffalo at the Jets.
Meet the Jets.
Baltimore at Miami.
The Miami Dolphins. The tanking Dolphins.
Kansas City at Jacksonville.
You know I'm a homer for them. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Tennessee at Cleveland.
Tennessee Titans.
LA Rams at Carolina.
In an upset, the Carolina Panthers.
Cincinnati at Seattle.
Cincinnati and the points.
Indy at LAC.
The hapless Indianapolis Colts. Not so much.
San Fran at Tampa Bay.
Bruce's Bucks.
Detroit at Arizona.
Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals.
New York Giants at Dallas.
Jerry Jones's Dallas Cowboys.
Pittsburgh at New England.
Give me the Steelers.
Houston at New Orleans.
The Nolans Saints.
And finally, the last game of the Monday night doubleheader, Denver at Oakland.
The silver and black, the Oakland Raiders.
Bronies, that's it for us. Good luck with your NFL Week 1 picks. Make your picks and see where you stack up on the leaderboard at BigRyanTheFatGuy.com. And tell your friends to subscribe for more Big Rye and the Fat Guy. And also, guys, remember, come check us out during the games. We'll be live streaming every game, so come check us out there. Fat Guy, you got any last points?
Yeah, compete with me. The thing is, you don't have to agree with me. That's the beauty of these broadcasts. You can completely disagree with everything I said, and I'm perfectly fine with it. So let's just take it to our version of the gridiron, the digital gridiron. We're going to be selecting, I've selected my games. I want to see you select yours. Sign up to the website, costs nothing. You might even get a prize at the end of it. Just fill out the form, pick who you think is going to win, and you will be commended not only on this show, but in life in general.